Mr. Sergeant at Arms.
All persons not entitled to the floor of the Senate under the rules thereof will now vacate the Senate chambers.
Please rise for the invocation by Pastor Tom Troth, Hillcrest Baptist Church, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
This is a singular privilege for me. Would you bow your heads, please? Father, we give you honor and praise this day, for you're worthy of it. We ask your blessing on President Stivers, members of the leadership, and all members of the Senate. We ask your blessing on leadership staff, LRC staff, that work so diligently to assist the Senate in their good work. Specifically for the members of the Senate, we pray for wisdom and discernment as they labor here to make decisions that impact the people of this great Commonwealth. May each senator honor you in word and deed. Give these legislators safety as they travel to and from the chamber this week. Watch over them and protect them in all that they do. We'll give you praise and glory for it all, for we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, if you would, please call the roll.
Senator Berg, Senator Boswell, Senator Carpenter, Senator Carroll, Senator Chambers Armstrong, Senator Clemens, Senator Deneen, Senator Douglas, Senator Elkins, Senator Funky Fromeyer, Senator Girdler, Senator Gibbons, Senator Herron, Senator Higdon, Senator Howell, Senator Maiden, Senator Mays-Bledsoe, Senator McDaniel, Senator Meredith, Senator Mills, Senator Neal, Senator Nemes, Senator Nunn, Senator Rocky Adams, Senator Rawlings, Senator Reed, Senator Richardson, Senator Smith, Senator Stivers, Senator Storm, Senator Thomas, Senator Tishner, Senator Webb, Senator West, Senator Wheeler, Senator Williams, Senator Wilson, Senator Wise.
Any member seeking recognition for the purpose of answering the roll? Seeing none, there being 30, Senator Berg's here. There being 33 members present, a quorum is declared. The Senate is authorized and prepared to do business. First order of business would be excuse of absent senators. Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, I move that the absent senators be excused, please.
Without objection, the absent senators are excused. Next order of business would be approval of the journal. Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, I move that the journal from Friday, January 30th, 2026 be approved as written.
Without objection, the journal from Friday, January 30th, 2026 is approved as written. Senator from Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. President. We would like to welcome all of our guests that are joining us live watching KET, as well as those that may be watching us as well online. We also welcome back our members from the weekend to do our work here on Monday. And notice a few of our members got into the barber shop with some nice haircuts. Mr. President, you one looking very nice this afternoon with a nice high and tight, as the young men would say, a fresh cut, Mr. President.
There was nobody in the barber shop. We were all snowed in. Had plenty of time. Thank you, Senator from Taylor.
Thank you.
You almost got the same type of sense of humor as that of the senator from Scott formerly had. There being no need for second reading of bills on the calendar, nor report of committees, the next order of business will be introduction of new bills and resolutions. Mr. Clerk, do you have a report?
Please proceed. New bills and resolutions. Senate Bill 9, an act relating to housing districts, Senator Mills. Senate Bill 144, an act relating to calorie information, Senator Rocky Adams. Senate Bill 145, an act relating to the Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control and declaring an emergency, Senator Rocky Adams. Senate Bill 146, an act relating to filings with the county clerk, Senator Rocky Adams. Senate Bill 147, an act relating to vital records, Senator Richardson. Senate Resolution 71, resolution honoring Dr. Samantha Shaver for her service as the current president of the Kentucky Dental Association, Senator Rocky Adams.
Does that conclude your report?
It does.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next order of business is going to be a motion for recess, but prior to that, Chair would recognize the senator from Grayson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I can't think of a better way to start this week than have the Clerk of the House here to communicate with our Senate.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, the House has passed House Bills 384, 144, and 290, and respectfully request concurrence of this honorable body. Thank you.
Madam Clerk. Senator from Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I make the motion that the majority party recess, I make the motion for the body to recess for a meeting of the majority party to caucus in the room to the side.
Prior to that, Senator from Fayette 13.
Mr. President, yes, Mr. President, thank you very much. Mr. President, the Democratic caucus will meet in the conference room right across the hall from the chamber upon recess.
Is that where the minivan is parked?
For the time being, Mr. President.
This body shall be in recess until call the chair. Mr. Doorkeeper, please inform the caucuses and members we are ready to reconvene. Body shall come to order. Next order of business, orders of the day. Senator from Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bill 3 be taken from its place in the orders of the day, read for the third time by title only, and placed upon its passage.
Mr. Clerk, if you would, please report Senate Bill 3.
Senate Bill 3, an act relating to school district finances.
Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, I yield to the Senator from Oldham for explanation of the bill.
Senator from Oldham.
Mr. President, can you please have the clerk report Senate Committee Amendment 1?
Mr. Clerk, if you would, please report Senate Committee Amendment Number 1.
Senate Committee Amendment 1 to Senate Bill 3.
Senator from Oldham.
Mr. President, Senate Committee Amendment 1 is just a procedural change to the legislation, and I move for adoption of Senate Committee Amendment 1.
Matter for the body is adoption of Senate Committee Amendment Number 1. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Senate Committee Amendment Number 1 is adopted. Senator from Oldham.
Mr. President, with the permission of the sponsor of Senate Floor Amendment 1, I move for that to be withdrawn.
Without objection, Madam Clerk, if you would please note Senate Floor Amendment Number 1 is withdrawn. Now, Senator from Oldham.
Mr. President, I yield to the sponsor of Senate Floor Amendment 2 for explanation.
Senator from Marion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would you ask the clerk to please call Senate Floor Amendment 2?
Mr. Clerk, would you please report Senate Floor Amendment Number 2?
Senate Floor Amendment 2 to Senate Committee Amendment 1 to Senate Bill 3.
Senator from Marion.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senator from Oldham was quite thorough in the Senate bill, and their drafting of Senate Bill 3, but there's a couple of things that I thought would be appropriate to add to it when we're talking about superintendent's compensation. Mr. President, the floor amendment simply adds a link to in the bill that a link to the Kentucky Department of Education website on the school district personnel information, including superintendent compensation. And upon separation of the superintendent, the gross pay of the superintendent during the superintendent's final fiscal year, total sick days accumulated, and total annual and personal days accumulated. Mr. President, that's it in a nutshell. Move for adoption of Senate Floor Amendment 2.
The matter before the body is adoption of Senate Floor Amendment Number 2. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Senate Floor Amendment Number 2 is adopted. Now, Senator from Oldham, Senate Bill 3 as amended by City Committee Amendment 1 and Senate Floor Amendment 2 are before the body. Do you have motion or discussion?
Speak on the bill, sir.
Please proceed.
Mr. President, Senate Bill 3 will strengthen requirements for financial transparency for our school districts and expand the general public's access to the budgeting process, financial reports, and spending information in order to ensure our taxpayer dollars are utilized properly and effectively for the education of Kentucky's public school students. The goal is simple: to ensure our education dollars are focused on student learning and student achievement. Education money is ultimately for educating our students, and when monies are irresponsibly used elsewhere, once made transparent, a correction is needed. Recent significant budget shortfalls in two of our largest districts led to a deeper dive by citizens who had access through open records laws, various financial documents, including credit card statements, procurement card receipts, and purchase order reimbursements, which revealed expansive misuse of taxpayer dollars across the state. By reviewing information gathered from 9 various districts that span the state, a noticeable pattern emerged of heavy administrative expenditures for restaurants, for administrative staff, excessive travel to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars in short periods of time, and various types of team building entertainment for the administrative positions. Senate Bill 3 will set into place two different requirements. First, a requirement for the budgeting process with full access to school board members and in public view, with the final working budget to be presented by the superintendent at a public meeting highlighting specific requirements. Senate Bill 3 also will mandate our school districts post on their main webpage for easy access to the public many already required monthly and annual reports, along with their monthly credit card statements, the superintendent's contract once approved, and any additional compensation, the district's financial audit, and the final working budget. SB 3 is essentially about fiscal responsibility, financial transparency and accountability, and ultimately, it is good stewardship of the taxpayer dollars our state prioritizes to educate our students. And Mr. President, with that, I move for the passage of Senate Bill 3 as amended by Senate Floor Amendment 2 and Senate Committee Amendment 1.
The matter before the body is passage of Senate Bill 3 as amended. Are there any members seeking recognition for the purpose of question or discussion? Seeing no one standing or no one in the queue, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Berg. Senator Boswell. Senator Carpenter. Senator Carroll. Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Clemens. Senator Deneen. Senator Douglas. Senator Elkins. Senator Funky Fromeyer. Senator Girdler. Senator Gibbons. Senator Herron. Senator Higdon. Senator Howell. Senator Maiden. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Senator Meredith. Senator Mills. Senator Neal. Senator Nemes. Senator Nunn. Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Rawlings. Senator Reed. Senator Richardson. Senator Smith. Senator Stivers. Senator Storm. Senator Thomas.
Senator from Fayette 13, please cast your vote, then explain, limited to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to explain my aye vote.
Please proceed.
Mr. President, I first want to say that, once again, I defend the Fayette County Public School System and the way they manage their budget during the 24-25 school year. Again, there was a $14.9 million overage, but that was due to the fact that primarily they had to hire 91 additional teachers, which they did not anticipate when the budget was finalized. They had to hire 88 additional paraeducators because they had a higher than expected enrollment of disabled students they did not anticipate. They wanted to make sure they fully funded all their transportation costs, all their meal costs, and all other necessary costs to educate the students, okay? After they covered that $14.9 million overage, Mr. President, they still had, at the end of the year, a $28 million surplus. Let me repeat it, $28 million surplus, which is 4% of their budget, which is twice as much as the state requires. State only requires a 2% rainy day fund. Fayette County has a 4% rainy day fund. Also, Mr. President, as regarding expenditures that have been called into question, again, I think the facts will point out that there have been 2 other trips that have been taken by 2 other previous superintendents that were not questioned, okay? The current superintendent took one, again, at the last minute after having initially decided he wasn't going to go because of a school shooting, had to pay extra money to go at the request of both the University of Kentucky and Lexington Commerce Lexington, our Chamber of Commerce. Okay. Having said all that, though, Mr. President, of course, where public funds are being used, we must have transparency. And the public should weigh in on that. They should review that, have every opportunity to comment. And it's for those reasons, Mr. President, that I support Senate Bill 3.
Senator Tishner. Senator Webb. Senator West. Senator Wheeler. Senator Williams. Senator Wilson. Senator Wise.
Carroll is an aye. Carpenter is an aye. Any members seeking recognition to cast, change, or explain their vote? Seeing none, there being 35 yeas, 1 nay, Senate Bill 3 as amended is passed. Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, I move that Senate Bill 1 be taken from its place in the orders of the day, read for the third time by title only, and placed upon its passage.
Mr. Clerk, if you would, please report Senate Bill 1.
Senate Bill 1, an act relating to education. Senator Givens.
Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, I yield to the senator from Green for explanation of the bill.
Senator from Green.
Mr. President, thank you, and certainly is a fitting day to follow Senate Bill 3 and a piece of education policy related to transparency with a presentation on Senate Bill 1. These two pieces of legislation go together to address education governance, and they work in tandem. Specific to Senate Bill 1, we're targeting the role of the board and the role of the superintendent in districts of significant scope and scale. Currently, only one district qualifies, but certainly in the future other districts could qualify. But it's worth a brief conversation about the timeline of why we have Senate Bill 1 back in front of us. And when I say back in front of us, we've passed the policy piece of this legislation before. This was passed in 2022 as Senate Bill 1. It was found constitutional by the state Supreme Court in December of 2024, and then in a reversal of that decision in December of 2025, most recently it was found unconstitutional. But in that finding that the Supreme Court found in December of 2025, they provided not just a roadmap, but they gave us GPS coordinates of how to fix the question of constitutionality. The court wrote, "In sum, the record is devoid of any reasonably articulable natural and distinctive reasons for the General Assembly's limitation of Senate Bill 1 to only a county school district in a county with a consolidated local government." They go on to say, "We do not reach this conclusion lightly. In point of fact, we note," and they stress again, "reasonably articulable, natural, and distinctive basis for the class distinctions." Multiple times they cite, in summary, if we gave more reasons for needing to treat this district differently, there would be no question on the constitutionality. So what we have before us is a new version of Senate Bill 1 that opens with, I'd like to count the pages because there's a lot of them at the guidance of the court. We have 8 pages, 7.5 pages, 42 specific reasons of why this district should be treated differently. Those reasons are significant, and they're a foundational component of this piece of legislation. With this district, we're talking about a district that receives 8% of all the SEEK money that we allocate to educate students in Kentucky. With this district, we're talking about 15% of all the Kentucky public school students. We are talking about a scope and size which is magnitudes larger than any other district in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We're talking about a budget of approximately $1,900,000,000, larger than the Louisville Metro government budget itself, and more than twice the size of the Commonwealth's second largest public school district budget. Now, it's not just the size that causes us to need to treat this district differently. When we look at the performance, the academic performance of this district, there are real concerns. We have concentrated in this district 77% of Kentucky's lowest performing schools. We have a transportation budget. 60,000 students are moved daily. This district, not only in scope and size, is different in terms of the challenge that this district faces. It's significantly different. And so those are the reasons that we've articulated for bringing back Senate Bill 1. And I'd like to read specifically what Senate Bill 1 does. Same thing it did in 2022, but very, very impactful for an organization this large. When we think about organizations, we think about a board of directors. And we think about the CEO, the superintendent, the primary caregiver, the person that oversees day-to-day operations. Understand that we, the legislators, we draft statutes. And in so drafting statutes, we create the boards. The boards are a creature of statute. And so us changing or redefining the role of the board is very much within our scope of responsibility and our authority. In doing so, we specify in Senate Bill 1 that we're delegating authority to the superintendent over the district's day-to-day operations. We're charging that superintendent with implementation of the board-approved strategic plan. We're defining that the board should be in charge of strategic planning, budget approval, audit reviews, hiring, reviewing, and firing the superintendent. And the superintendent should be in charge of day-to-day operations. Certainly with any organization this size, it's vitally important to have a decision maker on the front line overseeing day-to-day operations and not being hamstrung by too many cooks in the kitchen. That's what we're doing with Senate Bill 1. Mr. President, as I prepare to close my remarks, I think it's important for us to realize that not only are we given responsibility and authority, not only do we fund the operations of this district and other districts across the Commonwealth, we have a moral and ethical responsibility to provide the best possible education for these future leaders and these future citizens of our Commonwealth. And I'm confident that Senate Bill 1 enables a district of this size and scope to operate in a much more efficient way. In keeping with decorum in this body, I will certainly entertain any questions, but at this time I move for passage of Senate Bill 1.
The matter before the body is passage of Senate Bill 1. Question or discussion? Senator from Jefferson 33.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, Senator from Green, for the explanation of Senate Bill 1. I want to point out that I'm not going to get into the intricacies and the legalities of this bill. The court has already spoken to it, and obviously this is an attempt to overcome that, and I'll leave that to the courts. The courts will make a determination whether or not the language here has gone far enough. But I will say that I want to make it clear. I am convinced that every member of this body wants success for our students, every single one. And I don't want to be misinterpreted in terms of what I have to say here, because I believe that to be so. And we know it's so because we know that for us to be successful, what us means is each individual student must be able to thrive in an educational setting and meet the challenges of today and tomorrow. And collectively, we have a vested interest in that, because if they don't rise to the occasion, if we do not prepare them adequately, then what does the future hold for us and our obligation, the moral and ethical obligation that's been articulated here? So I think we're all on the same side when we start talking about that. I'm frustrated a little bit, quite frankly. I'm going to be a little critical of the district. In fact, a number of our districts across the Commonwealth, but particularly this district, because this district is where my kids went to school. I have a personal interest in the outcome that happens in that particular school, our school system. But I have to say that I can't give a pass on that. But I am encouraged. I'm encouraged because the board was bold enough to bring in an individual such as Dr. Yearwood. Think about that. If you've seen the steps he's taken so far, it's got to encourage you. He will make the hard decisions. That's clear, regardless of the pushback from some of those who may disagree. We know his background. We know it's solid. We know he's produced results elsewhere, so I'm encouraged by that. I have to tell you, though, that I'm a little concerned when we push the board back when actually we should be pushing the board forward. We want more accountability. And particularly when we're talking about people who are elected by our neighbors, the parents of our kids, people who are vested in our communities, we want them to be more involved in that situation of oversight. That's where accountability comes from. When you put power, I'm going to use that word loosely, because I'm not convinced that even passing this will get a result that's intended. And I say that because I don't think there's any evidence anywhere that suggests, by doing what Senate Bill 1 suggests, that supports the outcome that I'm sure good intentions suggest. At least I've been researching it and I can't find it. I don't see where it's manifest an outcome based upon what I've read in this legislation, but that doesn't mean you have bad intentions. In fact, I think you have good intentions. But I have to tell you, the Senate Bill 1, if we thought that having a superintendent was just going to select a curriculum like they did in 2022, I kind of like that. He should do that. And when you start talking about day-to-day functions of a superintendent, I think that's what's been going on all along at JCPS, prior to Dr. Yearwood coming in. So I don't think there's not much to be concerned with there. I mean, they dealt with policy and so forth. But I got to say, the language in the bill does not give the full picture, nor is it accurate in its facts as a whole. And none of this tells us why or how the current structure has led to these problems, or suggests that the proposed changes will fix these problems. Nothing I'm aware of. I think we should consider that. This bill speaks to various problems in Jefferson County Public Schools, both historically and today. But there is nothing I have seen, I repeat, or heard today that tells me the problem is that the board has gotten in the way of the superintendent or prevented him from taking the actions necessary to improve the district. In fact, quite the opposite. What we need is not less accountability, I must repeat. We need more accountability. And we need the people in place who will demand it. I think it's absolutely necessary. That's what we do here. If you really check the system, this democratic system of elected individuals are a board that's elected by the people, and that's the way our system is set up. That's the way it's set up systematically across the United States of America. There are some aberrations or some other models. But I got to tell you, I'm not that pleased with JCPS right now. I want better results. I have a district, or let's say in Jefferson County, when you start talking about CSI schools, we have too many of them. And there's reasons for that, because there are challenges there that aren't present in other districts. I understand that. But I'm going to tell you, I think that this particular method that we have here does not get us where we're going. I think there's something more fundamental that we need to focus on. You know, we like to talk about record funding for education. But that's simply because of inflation. As long as we have inflation, every year should be record funding. In fact, Adjusted for inflation, we are spending as a state 12% less now than we did in 2017. Let me repeat that. If you adjust this for inflation, we are spending as a state 12% less now than we did in 2017, which was our record high. Why was 2017 the record high? Because that's when the General Assembly first started funding the teachers' retirement system as its actuarially recommended level. And let's remember, the only reason our pension funding is so high today is because we underfunded it for years. And the majority, and I'm talking about us as a majority, because we all were involved, ran this chamber for almost all of that time. Direct pension funding to TRS doesn't reach the classroom. Understand that. You can't count that money in what we're talking about here. That does not translate in the classroom. That does not improve anything, particularly after the fact. It does not. When we exclude that direct funding to TRS, we're still spending 17% less than we did in 2008. Let me repeat that. When we exclude that direct funding to TRS, we're still spending 17% less than we did in 2008. And that would be even worse if we weren't including the on-behalf pension payments and employee health insurance, which have gone up over time. Everything goes up over time. When we look at only the SEEK budget, funding that flows to school districts to be used in whatever way they need to improve educational outcomes, we're spending 12%, again, less now than we did when SEEK first started. Think about that, 12% less. The lowest levels of SEEK spending in 2 generations have come since the majority, and I'm counting all of us as the majority, took control to do the work that we do. Looking just as JCPS, they receive, follow this, $2,710 in state SEEK funding this year, according to KDE. In 1992, they received $2,356. If you adjust that for inflation, that would be $5,569 today. So looking at the rough math, JCPS is getting less than half what they got when CURA was first implemented. You check the numbers. Maybe you can compromise the argument plus or minus here or there. But fundamentally, substantively, I think you can't get around these numbers. You can't get around the fact that we have underfunded the system that we rely on, not just for now, but going into the future. And therefore, we have to pick and choose what we do. And there's winners and losers. There's those that are more challenged in terms of the responsibility they have and the challenges they have to overcome. Yes, size does make a difference. Size makes a difference. You know, there are pluses with size, too. It's not just minuses with size. There's all kinds of programs and successes and assets that the school enjoys and that the people, and I say the people, that the community and the children, the young people, take advantage of. And we've seen the benefit of that as well. But we cannot allow, I agree, we cannot allow those who have not been able to meet those challenges for a multitude of reasons to continue along those lines. So what I'm saying here is this. I think we got to face exactly what the problem is, not just some structural change that we have no scientific or historical information that I'm aware of that can uphold the steps we're getting ready to take. And I want to emphasize, I do not suggest ill intention. I just think it's unwise. I think the hard work is going to be finding that money, because for every one of those challenges, there are initiatives and programs across this country that have been successful in overcoming them in significant degrees. I'm going to give you one piece, and Mr. President, I'm going to sit down. I can't forget a school in my district where JCTA, by the way, had a program that they got some kind of grant for, and it was about math. This was some elementary school in my district. And they invited me over to see what was happening because they were excited, and I got excited too when I realized that these students that were performing at a very low level, when that methodology was applied, same teachers, same folks that knew how to do what they did, but when they had this programmatic methodology applied, guess what? Those students excelled in 1 year. I mean, excelled. It was extraordinary. But they couldn't find the funding to continue that back in those days. It got lost in the mix. Money won't solve everything, but I'll tell you this. Take some money out of your pocket and my pocket, and I'll tell you what, things really change in terms of how we meet our responsibilities and our challenges. School systems need it too. And they need it to do what we're asking them to do. And just a structural change that has a tendency or may suggest that we can push apart an elected board and their responsibility of accountability over an individual who is highly qualified. You just have to show me that one. Maybe perhaps I'll see it. But I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for offering and attempting to offer a solution. I applaud that. I just am not convinced that this will do it, and therefore I will vote no.
The matter before the body is passage of Senate Bill 1. And so for point of reference, that was 14 and a half minutes. So he was within his time frame. Only person I see that's currently in the queue or seeking recognition. Sorry, you don't get your other 30 seconds. Senator from Bourbon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will not need my 15 minutes. I'll be brief. I want to speak briefly in favor of SB 1. And for me personally, the key thing that Senate Bill 1 does is it does something different than we've been doing for 30 years. It's something totally different. It's a different path. And the reason we're here, and one of the key difficulties for me personally as Senate Education Chair, is 41 of our CSI schools, those are comprehensive support and improvement schools, that is our low-performing schools, 41 of our 55 CSI schools are located in JCPS. Now, that would not be a problem in general, but it is held steady over time. That is not a new phenomenon. It's year after year after year. It's decade after decade after decade that a huge proportion of our CSI schools are from Jefferson County. This body, we swore an oath to the Constitution. And part of that oath is that we have an oversight responsibility of how state tax dollars are spent. And more importantly, I think we also have an oversight responsibility when it comes to student achievement in our schools. 50 to 60% of our entire general fund budget goes to fund education. So when that taxpayer gives $1 to us, 50 to 60 cents of that goes to education. And so when you talk about student achievement, it becomes not only as important for the schools and for the taxpayer, but it's life or death for the kids. It's life or death for the kids. We passed a early literacy bill in the chamber a few years ago, Senate Bill 9, our Read to Succeed Act, and many of you voted for it, and I appreciate that. In doing the research for that, I found one statistic that was quite staggering. In the southeastern United States, many southeastern states check out the fourth grade reading scores, and that helps them determine how many prison beds they're going to build in their state. There's a direct link between student achievement and outcomes and the trajectory of these children's lives. And that's what we're about. That's what we're about. Like I say, the bottom line is past performance. We've been here a long time. I've been here 10 years. Senator from Green, I think, has been here quite a bit longer. And we've heard the same story for years and years. Give us more time and give us more money. And we have given more money. Just to slightly rebut some of the comments from the senator from Jefferson, I'm not going to talk about inflation or anything like that. I'm not going to get in the weeds on that. I'm going to quote from the Kentucky District Data Profiles book. This is online. This is public information. This details how much money each district in the state of Kentucky receives. So for Jefferson County, this is per pupil expenditures. In Jefferson County in 2015, they received $12,167. In 2020, they received $14,870. In 2023, they received $18,485. In 2024, the most recent data, they received $18,706 per student. So for the taxpayer out there, going from $12,000 in 2015 to $18,706 in 2024, to me, that's a significant increase. A little bit of extra math. If you take 25 students in a classroom, Jefferson County is bringing in $467,650 for that class. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And so, to me, the clock has run out. The students in the West End and the students in JCPS deserve a high-quality education now. And I would urge passage of SB 1.
The matter before the body is Senate Bill 1. Senator from Fayette, 13.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we're talking about our public schools. And so I decided this weekend I was going to apply some of the learning and knowledge that I gathered when I was in public school and to engage in some study and research about, what Senate Bill 1 means in comparison to what's going on in other cities and in states of its size. Okay, so I decided to go to school and look at what's happening here. Now, keep in mind what Senate Bill 1 does, and the public needs to know this. What Senate Bill 1 does is that it cuts significantly the authority of locally elected officials. Senate Bill 1 says you can only meet once a month, has no provision for any extra meetings, any emergencies, school emergencies, God forbid, emergencies regarding school shootings. The school board cannot meet under Senate Bill 1, okay? It limits the amount of contractual authority that school boards have, your locally elected school boards have. So it essentially neuters the school board, the public elected officials, places a lot more authority in the hands of the superintendent. I said, well, what do other cities, similar to Louisville do? I looked at Atlanta, okay? I'm in Atlanta quite a bit, okay? Atlanta has about 103 schools. There is the Atlanta public school system that just deals with Atlanta, has slightly less students than Louisville has, but has a board that, again, oversees and administers what the superintendent does. It appoints the superintendent. No limits on its contractual authority, no limits on how often it can meet, has 9 members on its school board serving 4-year terms. Then I said, okay, let me take Charlotte as an example. Let's see what Charlotte does, since Louisville's decided to go in a different direction. Now, Charlotte has 140,000 students, slightly more than what Louisville has. Again, 9 members on the board, no limits on how often they can meet, all locally elected by the members of Charlotte, Mecklenburg County. Has authority to say over all contracts, not what Senate Bill 1 does, says $250,000, up to $250,000, the superintendent can just spend your money on his own. On $250,000, people need to know this. The superintendent can just write a check. No collaboration with the board whatsoever. Charlotte does not do that. Again, oversight by the board in Charlotte. Well, I said, okay, let's look at Tampa, okay? Tampa has 206,000 students, it's more than twice the size of Louisville. But again, the same kind of oversight and accountability by the board. Again, no limits on meetings. The officials locally elected. They're responsible for oversight and appointment of the superintendent. No change there, okay? Then I finally decided, well, let's get closer to home here. Okay, let's look closer to home. Let's take Nashville. Nashville's only 3 hours from Louisville, okay? Again, similar size, probably a little bit larger, actually a little bit less, because Nashville only has 80,000 students. Louisville has 95,000, okay? Again, a 9-member board, no limits on how often they can meet. They're not limited to once a month. They're not limited. There's no limitation on emergency meetings. They can have emergency meetings. They have full oversight of the superintendent. They appoint the superintendent. They oversee all contractual authority, how the people of Davidson County Nashville are spending their money. No limits at all. What I surmise by looking at those cities that are very comparable to the city of Louisville is that, generally speaking, they have more members. They have not a 9-member board. Louisville has 7. So if anything, we ought to be going in the opposite direction. We ought to be saying we ought to have more local control, not less. But no, Senate Bill 1 goes in the opposite direction. It says we want less public control. We want to neuter the board. Again, we want to limit their meetings. They have no emergency meetings, regardless of what that emergency might be. We want to limit how often they can get in contracts. We want to give the superintendent a $250,000 blank check to spend money. I submit, Mr. President, that we are going in the wrong direction regarding Senate Bill 1. So I want to share that education that I got from my public schools and say my research, my study indicates that Senate Bill 1 is really taking us in the wrong place. And, Mr. President, it's for that reason that I'm going to vote no on Senate Bill 1. Thank you.
Seeing no other person to be recognized, the only person left in the queue who has already spoken is the senator from Greene. So I will come back to the senator from Greene for final comment.
Mr. President, thank you. And a brief reply to some of the statements that have been made here on the floor, and I appreciate the conversation around education policy. It is by far the largest investment of taxpayer monies that we make here in the Commonwealth, with almost 60% of our general fund expenditures going for education, if you include K through 12 and post-secondary. So it is very appropriate that we have a robust debate and discussion on a piece of policy legislation like Senate Bill 1. Some of the statements that were made reflect concerns about funding. I heard a lot of conversation about funding. And I want to clarify, and I appreciate the Senator from Bourbon sharing some of these numbers. When we look at JCPS with over $18,000 per pupil funding, that's number one in the state. And remember, SEEK is a combination of local effort and state general fund monies. So over $18,000 per pupil funding, number one in the state. The average per pupil funding in Kentucky is a little over $13,000. Those numbers come from the OEA report on effectiveness and efficiency of Kentucky school districts dated October 2023. The other conversation I heard a lot of discussion about, especially by the Senator from Fayette 13, was around governance and oversight and the role of school boards and the role of superintendents. And I'm confident he's aware of this report, but there was also a late 2023 report authored by our own Office of Education Accountability. The title of that report is School District Governance Models and Interventions. Fascinating report that I would encourage all members to take a look at. I'm confident both Senator from Fayette 13 and Jefferson 33 have looked at the report because they, as you and I, Mr. President, being members of LRC, approved those two reports. Those reports effectively support what we're doing with Senate Bill 1. Thank you. I encourage all members to vote yes.
The matter for the body is passage of Senate Bill 1. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Berg. No. Senator Boswell. Aye. Senator Carpenter. Aye. Senator Carroll. Aye. Senator Chambers Armstrong. No. Senator Clemens. No. Senator Deneen. Aye. Senator Douglas. Aye. Senator Elkins. Aye. Senator Funky Fromeyer. Aye. Senator Girdler. Senator Givens. Aye. Senator Herron. No. Senator Higdon. Aye. Senator Howell. Aye. Senator Maiden. Aye. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Aye. Senator McDaniel. Aye. Senator Meredith. Aye. Senator Mills. Aye. Senator Neal.
Senator from Jefferson 33, you have 25 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say that the comments from Senator from Bourbon, who I deeply respect, ignore the argument with respect to inflationary numbers and underfunding. And I want to make sure you understand that the numbers I use are related to the SEEK only. When you take all of that into consideration, the bottom line is we have underfunded this challenge system that we call JCPS, and we should do more. No.
Senator Nemes. Senator Nunn. Senator Rocky Adams.
Senator from Jefferson 36, please cast your vote and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I really appreciate that there's been a lot of work on this bill, a lot of effort, a lot of energy put into it to make sure that Senate Bill 1 is right. I'm going to vote yes to move this bill through the process, but I do so very reluctantly. I still do have some reservations about the wording of some of the provisions in this bill. I think that there are a few pieces that need some more specificity. I'm concerned about that lack of specificity and some unintended consequences that may result. I've talked to the sponsor, and I look forward to continuing to work with the sponsor, members of the House, and our Education Committee, because we really need to make sure Senate Bill 1 is right, and our kids deserve it. So thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Rawlings. Senator Reed. Senator Richardson. Senator Smith.
Senator from Perry, please cast your vote, then explain, limited to 3 minutes.
Yes, I rise to cast an aye vote, and I won't need the 3 minutes. I do think this certainly is worthy of having a cause for a thoughtful approach for this, because not all counties and regions are the same, and so we do have some within the eastern part of the state that are reluctant, and they've got, as we say, an eyebrow raised to see why they're getting pulled into this to some degree. And so I've listened to a lot of different discussions and will continue to follow this, but just to echo some of the voices that are in this room is that I think when we take these approaches that we take in consideration that Kentucky is made up of a lot of different counties and different jurisdictions and different setups, and that we try our best to hone it down so that we don't have the unintended consequences I'm afraid may arise from this. So with that said, I do vote aye, but I do so with hope that when these things pop up as it moves forward, we'll have a chance maybe to refine how it may impact my region. Thank you.
Senator Stivers. Senator Storm. Senator Thomas. Senator Tishner. Senator Webb. Senator West. Senator Wheeler. Senator Williams. Senator Wilson. Senator Wise.
Any members seeking recognition to cast, change, or explain their vote? Seeing none, there being 29 yeas, 7 nays, Senate Bill 1 is passed. Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, we're going to pass over Senate Bill 34, but ask that it remain in its place in the regular orders.
Madam Clerk, if you'd please note, Senate Bill 34 is passed over and it will retain its place in the orders of the day. Senator from Taylor.
With that, Mr. President, that concludes the orders of the day.
Then next order of business is meeting of the Rules Committee and Committee on Committees. Senator from Taylor, do you have a motion?
I do, Mr. President. I move that the Senate recess for a meeting of the Rules Committee and the Committee on Committees at the clerk's desk, please.
This body shall be in recess until call of the chair. Body shall come to order. Next order of business is report of committees. Mr. Clerk, please report.
There is no Rules Committee report, but the Committee on Committees has met and referred the following bills and resolutions to the Health Services Committee, Senate Bills 18 and 137, to State and Local Government Committee, Senate Bills 33, 85, and 132, to the Transportation Committee, Senate Bill 110, and to the Senate floor, Senate Resolutions 69 and 70. And also, the Committee on Committees has reassigned Senate Bill 45. Senate Bill 45 taken from Economic Development, Tourism, and Labor and reassigned to the Agriculture Committee.
Does that conclude your report?
It does.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next order of business will be motions, petitions, resolutions, communications, and announcements. Senator from Callaway.
Communicate with the body, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
I'd like to invite everyone to join us Thursday for lunch sponsored by Murray State University and the new president, Ron Patterson, and university leadership. That'll be Thursday, February 5th in room 113. And I want to make special note that all Western Kentucky University alum are welcome as well.
Senator from Warren.
Co-sponsorship, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
With permission of the primary sponsor, I move to be added as co-sponsor of Senate Bill 145, and I do have the appropriate paperwork.
Please file the same without objection. So ordered. Senator from Jefferson 33.
Announcement.
Please proceed.
I wanted to remind the members of this body of the invitation to the Black History Celebration tomorrow at 11 a.m. at the Kentucky History Center. I'm hopeful that I'll see many of your faces there. I assure you it will be a great presentation and you will find much enjoyment in it. Thank you.
Members, please take note. Senator from Hardin.
Co-sponsorship request.
Please continue.
With the permission of the primary sponsor, I move to be added as co-sponsor to Senate Bill 45.
Please file the appropriate paperwork and without objection, so ordered. Senator from Henderson.
Mr. President, co-sponsor request.
Please continue.
Mr. President, I'm catching up on my co-sponsor request here, so with the permission of the primary sponsor, I'd move to be added as co-sponsor of the following Senate bills. Senate Bill 4, 10, 22, 39, 40, 43, 51, 57, 64, 69, 70, 72, 101, 104, 107, 119, 123, 127, and 140.
Seeing no other member seeking recognition under this order of business, we will go to introduction of floor amendments. Mr. Clerk, do you have a report? Please proceed.
Senate Floor Amendment 1 to Senate Bill 102, Senator Higdon.
Does that conclude your report on that?
It does.
Then let us go to new bills and resolutions.
New bills and resolutions. Senate Bill 148, an act relating to local government, Senator Nemes. Senate Bill 149, an act relating to the Office of County Treasurer, Senator Elkins. Senate Bill 151, an act relating to evaluations of certified educators, Senator Reed. Senate Bill 152, an act relating to education, Senator Reed. Senate Bill 153, an act relating to the prevention of harmful and fraudulent practices, Senator Elkins. Senate Bill 154, an act relating to elections, Senator Tishner. Senate Resolution 72, a resolution recognizing March 17, 2026 as Profound Autism Day in Kentucky, Senator Meredith. Senate Resolution 73, resolution adjourning the Senate in honor and loving memory of Jack Conley Morgan, Senator Smith. Senate Joint Resolution 74, a joint resolution directing the Legislative Research Commission and state agencies to collaborate to create a statewide fiscal map of substance use disorder programs and funding sources. Senator Storm.
Mr. Clerk, does that conclude your report?
It does.
then, the last order of business would be adjournment. But prior to that motion, is there any member seeking recognition to bring any business before this body? Senator from Fayette, 13.
Thank you, Mr. President. To act on the resolution, please.
Under suspension of the rules, please proceed.
Yes, Mr. President, could you please ask the clerk to report Senate Resolution 53 and read by title only?
Mr. Clerk, if you would, please report Senate Resolution 53 by title only.
Senate Resolution 53, resolution celebrating the University of Kentucky Markey Cancer Center's remarkable scientific achievements. Senator Thomas.
Senator from Fayette, 13.
Move for its adoption, Mr. President.
Matter for the body is adoption of the resolution. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
Thank you.
Any other person seeking recognition prior to the final motion? Seeing none. Senator from Taylor, do you have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that the Senate adjourn until 2 p.m. Tuesday, February 3rd, year of our Lord, 2026.
Without objection, this body shall stand adjourned until the hour of 2 p.m. Tuesday, February 3rd, year of our Lord, 2026.
Thoughts on the $40,000 price tag on the sheriff's truck.
Okay.
Lucas has a couple questions. He said no big